it going, everybody? Merry Christmas and welcome back to EMPM. EMPM, of course, stands for Engineering Major, Philosophy Minor, and this is the channel where you can get a working aerospace engineer's opinions on topics pertaining to engineering, philosophy, politics, and various other social and cultural issues. And in today's video, this is just going to be a strictly fun cultural video. It is Christmas. Santa did come to town. I have all the components that I need right here to do my first ever custom liquid cooling loop on my rig, which is right here. So if you guys are looking at the rig right now, you can see that my modes of cooling are predominantly convective airflow from the fans on the front and on the top. And then I do have some AIO, that stands for all-in-one cooling, on the CPU and on my graphics card, the GPU. But if you guys watched my previous videos on computer builds and things like that, and particularly when I was working out a couple things with this system recently, you'd know that I've been wanting to do a custom liquid cooling loop for a while now. And I finally, saved up a good portion of the money and then got a couple donations from family and was able to get all these components. So what I want to do really fast is I want to run through what all these components are. And what I'll do is I'll throw the price up on the screen somewhere or something like that, and we'll do a running total so you can see how much a lot of this stuff costs. Now, what you're gonna find is that a lot of this stuff is relatively expensive. The liquid, just getting set up for the first liquid cooling loop, I think we'll throw it up on the screen later, but it was somewhere around $1,300 or $1,400. Now, you can build yourself a system for $1,300 or $1,400. That's pretty good. So it's pretty expensive. But what I want to emphasize to people from the cultural point of view and kind of the political point of view is we're in a time where there's a lot of inflation, as you know. There's shortages of goods. That means prices are going to go up. There's very high demand for a lot of the stuff, not a whole lot of supply. And when that happens, what you need to do in terms of your own personal finances is you need to plan out. And you need to say, okay, I need to save for this amount of time if I want to get these things. Maybe I need to put a fudge factor on there for inflation potentially, or whatever, and just keep saving and keep practicing that delayed gratification and making sure that you can control yourself, or you can buy things in piecemeal, which is kind of what I did. But just keep your finances in mind when you're looking at this, and I promise you, if you just give yourself a little bit of diligence, a little bit of time, you're going to save up the money and you're going to be able to do this stuff, or maybe your interests are going to change and you're not going to be interested in what you were before, and all of a sudden you have this cash to spend on another endeavor. So now that I've said that, let's go ahead and look at what some of these components are. Let's go ahead and start off with whatever's closest to me. First off, we have the RGB Corsair. By the way, all these parts are Corsair parts. Head over to the Corsair website. They're not sponsoring this video or anything. I mean, I got 9 subs, but whatever. But I did get most of these parts from Corsair with the exception of a few. I'll explain what those are in a second. But this is the Corsair. This is the water reservoir and pump all-in-one combo. I really like this just because I kind of like the fact that there's this tank, this reservoir tank of water in the system. I can see clearly, that the system has the air bubbles, all the way out at the top of the reservoir and stuff like that. Also, it's cool when people are looking in the system, they just see this kind of like water tank looking thing, and you can really make your computer look like very industrial, which is one of the sick things about a custom loop. So we've got that. We've got two 240 millimeter radiators right here. So this particular case is also a Corsair case. I can put a 240 millimeter up top here and a 240 millimeter at the bottom, which is what I have right there on the all-in-one cooler on the GPU. I don't know if I'm pointing at it right because it's hard to see. And then I can put a 360 millimeter radiator here on the front that accepts, obviously 3 120 millimeter fans. Of course, we have the next XG7 RGB. This is a GPU liquid cooling block. And since we're talking about that right now, here is the previous XG7 that I did like a video tutorial on. Keep in mind, guys, that was like 6 months ago or something like that I did the tutorial on how to put this down. So this graphics card has been sitting just on a table over there in my living room for like 6 months, and it's been really hard to not just go all out and just order a bunch of parts all at once. I knew I needed to save up some money, so I had to focus on some delayed gratification so I could save up and I could get the rest of the parts so that I could do this build. So this has been hanging out unused for 6 months. Brand new graphics card, a 2080 RTX 2080 Ti. I've got an RTX 2080 Ti in the build already. We're gonna SLI this. And then since I have this out already, I did get these EVGA like kind of power block things. And what this does is it routes the power from normally here, so the power connectors come in here up to the side so that I can plug the power connectors in this way. I don't know if I'm going to use those. I'm not 100% sure if I want to use those yet. I just have to see how the cable routing works out. We'll go through that when we actually get into building the custom liquid cooling loop. By the way, guys, another side note, I know that this is taking up time in the video, but whatever. It is 12/25/2021 right now, so it is Christmas Day. And this is going to be, this is my gaming and my editing machine. So this is going to be out of commission while I'm taking this stuff apart. So we're filming on the camcorder, obviously, not like a webcam or anything that would be hooked up to this machine right now. And I don't have a separate editing machine. So keep in mind, this is like my winter break project. Obviously going to have to do that intermittently with, working the second job that I'm working. By the way, guys, another side note, we're getting kind of sidetracked, but I did in fact get a second job. This is going to net me about an extra $500 a month. It is a manual labor type job, only making like 16 bucks an hour. But by the way, minimum wage is like 8 bucks an hour. So guys, I just want to send the message really fast to men out there who are concerned about money and this and that. And, you might be out there trying to chase women and you want to take women on expensive dates and stuff like that. Guys, go out there and get yours, okay? Get one job, get 2 jobs, all right? Start working and contributing to society, stop messing around. And the second you start doing that is when you can buy stuff like this and you can get on a camera and just, spew off when you're on vacation or whatever for Christmas. So anyway, we have the XG7. That's going to go on this card right here that's already in there. Then we have the XC9 RGB. This is the CPU water block. That's going to replace the little 120 millimeter fan or AIO setup that I have on the CPU right there. Here is this EVGA power link thing that I was talking about. Make sure that doesn't fall. And then of course we have the Geforce NVLink 3-slot SLI bridge. For whatever reason, guys, these are insanely expensive, and if you watch the previous video, I accidentally got the 4-slot one, which is more readily available but still very expensive. This thing right here is like 300 bucks or something. Maybe it's only 200. We'll put the price up, but anyway, that's a pain. So those are all the water block and cooling elements. And then of course we have various accessories. So I did decide to get the IQ Commander Core XT. This is an RGB controller so that you can have control over all your lighting and stuff like that. You can customize the color of every fan, you can set color schemes, you can set different patterns for it to go through and stuff like that. This case right here, which I think is the 680X, the Corsair 680X or something like that. But this case actually comes with an IQ Pro. In terms of cooling fluid, I decided to go with this purple color right here, and I'll walk up to the camera and show you guys this closer. So here's a look at this purple cooling fluid right here closer up. And of course this is a filling bottle also from Corsair. I mean, you can get these at, craft store or hardware store or whatever. But I really love that purple color. So with that purple color, I just think it's gonna look really sweet in the system right here, and I'll probably customize the fan LEDs to be kind of a complementary color, maybe a soft white with like tilting towards purple. Just really want to make this thing look like very industrial, very advanced. And honestly, I don't know what it is, but if you guys think about like, movies where they show like a nuclear reactor and it's like glowing blue and like all these cool colors, well, I just For some reason, I just like to imagine my computer as like this advanced nuclear reactor, and I think the purple color is really going to make that stand out. So in terms of connectors, we've got these 14 millimeter hardline connectors. I've got 4 of these packs of 4 each. Just want to make sure you don't run out. These connectors are very expensive, and they are in the black, like not non-chrome. So if you get chrome, it's silver. These are just the black ones, keeping it clean. Also, we have some, 12 millimeter connectors. Do have a couple 90-degree connectors right here as well. We have the, this is the XT Hardline multi-video card toolkit. So obviously these graphics cards are going to be sitting really close to each other. So you want to be sure that you have, these tube lengths cut correctly to size, so you don't have any leaks, but also it's kind of a pain to cut it yourself. So speaking of tubing, I actually did not go with Corsair tubing. I actually went with, I believe this is, what's the name of this company? Primo Chill. This is PETG tubing. So what is PETG, for those of you who don't know? It's just a different kind of plastic. The reason I decided not to go with Corsair is because they were offering acrylic tubing. This is, the same outer diameter, same inner diameter tubing. It's a softer plastic. So one of the things, and shout out to Jay's 2 cents, he does some really awesome builds, and I'm probably going to be referring a lot to his video for, your first liquid cooling build and stuff. But he does have a number of videos talking about PETG versus acrylic. Personally, he's an expert at this. He's good at working with both. That's fine. But since this is my first one, I didn't really want to deal with the cracking issue with acrylic. I didn't want to get like abrasive edges when I was making my cuts and stuff like that. I just thought it would be better to deal with PETG than acrylic. That said, acrylic works just fine, and I have read some random things that say PETG can get like a little bit cloudy after like a really long period of time. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. But decided to go with that PETG tubing, and I actually got this in a kit which came with a deburring tool, some tube lube. It also came with this bending insert right here, as well as these bending tools right here, so you can do a 180 degree bend around this, 90 degree and 45 degrees. And then of course we've got this pipe cutter right here. So this is really similar to like a PVC cutter, and so I imagine that PETG is very similar tubing to PVC. You can't really cut acrylic with a tool like this because acrylic will crack. So that was the other thing too, is if you go with acrylic, Corsair actually sells a kit similar to this, but you actually have to use a hacksaw on that, which I didn't really want to deal with, crap getting scattered everywhere. I mean, if you guys watched the video where I framed the periodic table and I had to set up all this stuff so that the sawdust didn't get all over the carpet and stuff, this is, I love my apartment, but it's not like I have a workshop here. So then of course we got some fan splitting cables right here. So yeah, let's see here. Did I go through everything? Oh, last thing. Got the QL RGB fans. This is a 3-pack right here. The reason I like the QLs a lot is because you get an LED both on the front of the fan, which is the fan where the air is getting, part of the fan where the air is getting sucked in, and there's LEDs on the back of the fan where the air is getting exhausted through the fan case right there. And for the fans that are facing on the outside of the case, which is going to be these ones and these ones, I'm not so concerned about having the LED on the inside necessarily, because when you're looking at the case from the outside, you're going to be seeing these fans, and that's totally fine. But then when you're looking at, when you're actually looking at the build right here, obviously, I'm going to want fans at the bottom there. I just thought it would be better to have the LED on both sides so I get a little bit more lighting depending on which way I decide to orient those. Also, I'll be putting a fan up over here, so I'll have the ability to, have light shining out the back here as well. Not that anybody would be looking at it from the back because it's against the wall, but whatever. And fans and lights kind of shining inward too, depending on which direction I decide to orient those fans. So I think that'll give a really good lighting scheme to the whole thing, and really allow you guys, or allow me at least, and anyone who comes over, because it's super sexy when dudes just build computers and try to show them off to girls. Anyway, people, I think it'll just look very aesthetic. You're trying to impress your friends. Maybe, who knows, maybe you have a girl over and she's like, oh, I'm super into gaming, and then you're like, oh, sweet, look at this rig that I built. She's like, oh, dude, that's so crazy. Oh my God, let's just make out. Anyway, so I think that about covers everything. And now I'm actually going to get into working with the computer here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect all the cables, and then we'll get some shots of that. I'm going to take out the graphics card that's in there, lose the AIO cooler, and then we're going to put this XG7 onto that graphics card in there. And also we'll take off the AIO cooler on the processor, pop on the CPU water block. We'll take off the fans. Well, there's a lot of steps here that I'm going through. Anyway, we're just gonna get started. I'm not sure if this is gonna be a multi-part video where I do like multiple videos for each part, or if it's gonna be kind of all in one video. Of course, if it was all in one video, it might be super long, but now I'm just kind of talking to myself. Let's go ahead and get all this stuff disconnected, and then we'll put the XG7 onto the graphics card that I have in there right now, and then we'll go from there. Alright guys, so as you can see, I've taken out the previous video card as well as the NZXT liquid cooler here, and I've got this set out on the table. And since we're looking at this right now, I actually want to point out that I actually think that this cooler setup from NZXT is pretty sweet, and the software that they have to go along with it's really nice. And you can kind of see, like, you see this NZXT like kind of logo in there, so that actually lights up. And inside here there's also some LEDs, and I wish I could light it up right now to show you, but when it's all lit up, it's actually really cool. And I kind of wish that I had gotten another one of these to put on the CPU here, because then when you look inside the case, you can see that getting lit up right here. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get the XG7, that XG7 right here, installed on this graphics card. So I'm going to take this setup off here. But since I had the case opened up and some cables unplugged, and I know it looks like kind of a mess, but I did want to point out something very important. So this right here is the 360mm radiator. Obviously, I just have it kind of mocked up here in position, and I didn't want to take it out of the bubble wrap because I don't want any contamination to get into any of the ports, or at least I want to like minimize that as much as possible. But one thing that you're going to notice here is if I take my other graphics card and I just kind of mock it up into place here, look at how close the cable connectors get on this EVGA like kind of cable routing or power routing device right here. Obviously that's not going to work. There's no way I'm going to be able to get cables in there, and so it looks like I'm going to have to go ahead and not use these EVGA power routing things, which is not a big deal. But the reason why I wanted to show you guys this is part of the process. When not only when you're working with your computer or working with anything engineering related, is it's always nice to kind of mock things up ahead of time and just like try and do at least as much pre-planning as you possibly can. Because, I mean, imagine if I got everything installed and then all of a sudden, I went in here and I was like, oh, this, cable arrangement's not going to work, or the piping arrangement isn't going to work. That's another issue, is I probably won't be able to pass tubing around this graphics card, or I will, but it might be kind of awkward. So it's always important to just kind of try and mock things up ahead of time, and make sure that everything is gonna fit well. And one thing that I'm also noticing is if you look up here, the clearance between here and the other radiator that's going to come down here is really close. But I think it should fit. This should sit more flush without the bubble wrap on, and then this one will be up here. But anyway, we're gonna do some more mock-up stuff. Obviously, I have to take this off of the CPU as well, get that out of the way. That'll free up some room in the case. But I did just want to point out that issue with the graphics card and the power connectors over there. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the XG7 installed on this. And if you wanted to see how the XG7 goes together, how it went together on that one, I did put a tutorial up on this channel, checking that out. That's kind of a long video, maybe longer than it needed to be. But anyway, we're gonna get that XG7 installed on here, and then we'll get this taken off and we'll continue with planning out the liquid setup. So catch you guys in a little bit. So I've got the XG7 on this 2080 Ti, and I have the XG7 on this other 2080 Ti, and I got really excited, so I decided I'd mock it up in here. And since I know for a fact that I'm going to use this multi-card hard tubing little kit right here, I decided that what I wanted to do is just put this hardline tubing in place already, because I know I'm going to use it in this configuration, so I might as well try and get that set up ahead of time. And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how these compression fittings work. Okay, so you can see this one right here. There's a green seal, and that's the seal that goes against the part. So if we look on this card right here, it might be kind of hard to see, but you can see a tint of green right there. So that's what interfaces with the part. And then there's a second swage fitting with another black seal that basically just sits on top of here, and then that also screws down like this. I can turn this top one to tighten this around the tube, and then I can tighten the bottom one to tighten the entire assembly against the actual interfacing part. So here what I've done is I've slid this fitting on this side and put the seal over, and I'm going to go ahead and, if I can do it with one hand, I'm going to slide this fitting on that end, and then I'm just going to roll the seal on here. Now be careful that you don't accidentally roll one side of the seal and not the other, because then the seal will twist, and you definitely don't want the seal to twist. And as a matter of fact, in aerospace maintenance, when they're replacing seals on like gearboxes and pumps and things like that, there's actually this very special procedure they need to go through to make sure that the seals aren't twisted in any way. These are really small seals, so it's pretty easy to see if you have a twist, and it's pretty easy to avoid a twist. But when you're talking about, like, let's say I had a seal that like just was like some weird snake looking thing around here and all the way around there, you definitely want to be sure that seal isn't twisted, because it's like pretty hard to tell. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get these cards put in there, set up. We'll get a shot of that, and then I'm going to go to bed because it's getting pretty late. So the way this is going to work is going to be kind of intricate. So I've got on this card, these seals are ready to go, just to be popped up and twisted. And then on this card, on this side, I'm going to go ahead and screw these ones in there like so. And according to Jay's 2 cents, these don't need to be tightened incredibly tight. Just kind of hand tight. Nothing too crazy. I'm going to make them a little bit tighter, just because that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. And now what's going to have to happen is this is going to get sandwiched on here. Hopefully without messing with stuff too much. All right. We've got those two things kind of seated together. And now I'm actually going to put this entire assembly into the machine right here. And fortunately the cards are kind of resting on each other right here on this side. That's good, because technically you can see that this can you know, they can kind of bend with respect to one another. But once they're put in the slots and the screws are put in place, that won't happen. So, man, look at all this computing power right here in these graphics cards. Go ahead and see if we can carefully put this in here. Top card is on. Bottom card. Alright, top card is locked in place. Struggling a bit with the bottom card here. Oh no, the bottom one is in place as well. Alright, so now that we have this in place right here, I can simply just move these up. In fact, I should screw this in first, but well, let's try to just do one. So I'm going to slide that up and then just tighten up kind of the other part of this fitting right here, making that nice and hand tight. Bottom side is tightened too, and actually, since we're here, just move this one up. Am I turning the wrong way? Sure I am. Tighten this up here. By the way, guys, the reason I'm using gloves is because I just don't want to get fingerprints all over the tubing. In fact, this tubing is actually there's kind of some marks on it that might be on the inside that I may actually decide that I want to clean off now that I've already got this all completely assembled. But anyway, guys, so here you can see this is just the first element of the liquid cooling setup, and this is good to go. I mean, this isn't going to change, obviously. I'm going to have, one way or another, I'm going to have these two tubes running here, so it's okay that they're in place in the build. So next step for tomorrow is going to be taking this out. These are just power cables right here to the graphics cards. Taking out this AIO cooler, and then once that's out of there, I'm going to start putting the radiators in place. We'll get shots of that and we'll see how it all looks. And unfortunately, now that I just did this, I think I'm actually going to take this off and try and clean out. I just noticed now there's some scuff marks in there, and I really don't want that to be present in my first build. I want it to be really clean and good looking for you guys. So gonna have to do a little bit of rework, but we're gonna do that tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for watching part number 1 of the custom liquid cooling loop. Today that I'm filming this particular portion, it is January 15th, 2022. As you can see, it's taken me quite a bit of time to get through not only the build, but then also the editing process. I'm releasing part 1 right now, and there's going to be several more parts to this build until the final completion. Now, the reason I decided I would release it in parts is because each of these segments is getting relatively long. When I put all the footage together, it came out to be about a total of almost 3 hours worth of footage. And so I figured if you guys want to watch this in different segments, or if you just want to jump all the way to the final part to see the final build, that's totally cool. But if you really want to get an in-depth look at what the process is, all the successes, all the failures, some of the redos, you know, the total cost, kind of all the steps that are needed to create a custom liquid cooling loop in your PC and really make it reflect exactly what you are interested in seeing when you look at your own computer, when people come over and look at your computer, then check out all the other parts. And again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in part number 2.